Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. This is a story of two crises. One is the screeching acceleration of COVID. The other is the existential threat posed by Donald Trump to this nation. And these two assaults on our system are deeply intertwined. First, for the Trump attack. The big question of the moment is what Donald Trump will do next. He seems to have two alternatives in mind. Alternative number one is destroying Fox TV with a channel of his own. Alternative number two is destroying American democracy with a coup to hold on to the White House. The big question of the moment, which will Trump pick? The motivation for Donald Trump's new prospective venture, his own internet streaming media empire, is typical Trump. Trump was furious at Fox for calling the election for Joe Biden. And when Trump gets furious, he needs someone to crush, someone to stomp, someone to utterly destroy. This time his victim is not Mexican immigrants. It's Fox News. In the words of one Axios source, Trump wants to wreck Fox. Remember Trump's mobs of angry AR-15 and AK-47 assault rifle bearers, the ones who showed up in Lansing, Michigan to answer Trump's call to liberate Michigan? And remember how on September 21st in a video, Don Jr. called for a Trump army, a force of true believers he dubbed the Army for Trump? Well, Trump's army is behind him. The word among true blue Trump supporters is that Fox News has undergone a liberal coup in the hands of Rupert Murdoch's sons, James and Lachlan. Because Fox is no longer towing the Trump party line, Trump believers are turning to other, more reliably Trumpish news outlets. Newsmax and One America News Network. As Brian Stelter reports in his Reliable Sources newsletter, before the election, Newsmax struggled to get 100,000 viewers. But since the election, some of their shows have shot up to 800,000 viewers. That's not yet equal to Fox's 2 million viewers, but it's approaching that and may go higher as the discontent of Trump fans with Fox's report of actual news and refusal to repeat Trump's lies as truthful headlines continues. If Donald Trump starts his own media outlet, could anyone stand a diet of all Trump all the time? Very likely, yes. Whether we love him or loathe him, we've had a steady diet of Trump headlines 2 or 3 times a day since 2016, and we've all become addicted to it. But where will Donald Trump get his news if he stops watching Fox? From sources with even more conspiracy theories and QAnon fantasies, Newsmax and One America. But here's the really scary question. Will Donald Trump actually leave the White House willingly? General Barry McCaffrey doesn't think so. He thinks Donald Trump is setting the stage for a coup. Says McCaffrey, if I was a CIA officer trying to understand what was going on in a third world country, and I saw this pattern of behavior, I would say the strongman's trying to take over the government and defy an election. McCaffrey adds in a tweet, we are watching a slow-moving Trump coup to defy the Biden election and refuse to leave office by diktat. Believe your eyes. This will be a test of our institutions. Donald Trump has fired his Secretary of Defense and 3 other key figures in the Pentagon. He has replaced them with Trump loyalists, toadies, who McCaffrey thinks do not have the competence and experience to do the job of defending the nation. Many news outlets have pointed out that this kind of instability opened us up to attack on the World Trade Center in New York City on September 11, 2001. A failure to have a methodical months-long handover of power after a contested presidential election created weaknesses that al-Qaeda was able to exploit. In reality, what Donald Trump may be doing is getting the military under his own control so that if, let's say, there's another police killing of a black man and protests start up again, he can invoke the Insurrection Act, declare a state of emergency, put troops in the streets, and can negate the election. President Trump may be opening up as many options as possible in the hope that chaos will reopen a path to his ultimate goal, staying in the White House. The real danger of Trump's moves is summed up by the former president in charge of construction at the Trump Organization, who says about Donald that if all else fails, he will burn down the house. Then there's COVID. If Donald Trump does not get out of the way fast enough, if Trump does not have his staffers tell Joe Biden's team where the personal protective equipment is, how much or how little of it we've got, and what plans are underway for distribution of a COVID vaccine, a lot more of us will lose our lives, killed by the coronavirus and its partner in crime, the man clinging with all his might to the Oval Office desk. Yes, COVID's enabler-in-chief is Donald Trump. There are over 175 men and women leading nations in this world, but of all of them, Donald Trump has helped the coronavirus, the virus behind COVID, score the most points, score the most victims. But is the COVID crisis really all that bad? You bet. One of the 13 advisors on Joe Biden's COVID transition team, Dr. Michael Osterholm, says we are about to enter COVID hell. Here's what he's talking about. As of November 13th, we Americans had hit a towering new number of coronavirus cases in a single day, 153,673. For comparison, the number of new cases that seemed shocking in June was less than 20,000. Today's figure is more than 8 times as high. And COVID cases are skyrocketing in the most unexpected places. Rural counties, previously untouched by COVID, counties whose citizens do not believe in shutdowns, face masks, and social distancing. Counties in the wide open spaces of Montana, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Yes, COVID is soaring in counties that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. Even worse is the appalling number of hospitalizations and deaths. By the time you watch this, we will have experienced 250,000 deaths, more than England, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain combined, more than any other nation in the world. November 12th, for the first time since the COVID crisis began, hospitalizations in a single day shot above 67,000. This means that hospital staffs are overburdened and exhausted. And despite what the president told the nation on November 13th, hospitals are out of N95 masks and gowns and are reusing the ones they have over and over again. By the time you come down with the coronavirus, there may not be a bed for you or enough staff to care for you. Then there are the daily death tolls, which have moved from less than 450 a day in early November to more than 3 times that on November 13th. Fortunately, there is hope on the horizon. As you know, Pfizer has announced that its new coronavirus vaccine is a stunning 90% effective. Pfizer's 90% effectiveness massively overtops the 40 to 60% effectiveness for the flu vaccine that our doctors urge us to get every year. However, Pfizer's announcement came in the form of a press release and did not include data that outside medical experts could review. And the Pfizer vaccine has a problem far, far bigger than that. It has to be stored at minus 103 degrees. That's much, much colder than the free refrigerator in any standard lab or doctor's office, which means that we would need an entirely new national refrigeration infrastructure to get this vaccine to you and me. Fortunately, there are 10 other vaccines in late-stage trials. But Dr. Anthony Fauci hints that you and I are unlikely to be able to get a COVID vaccination until June. At the rate we're going, that means roughly 250,000 more of us will have died before the vaccine is widely available. That's 10 times the number of deaths per year of the common flu. But there's another kind of cavalry that could come to the rescue. It's $5 tests you could administer at home, tests you could keep 2 dozen of on your kitchen counter and use whenever you need, tests that could tell you when you might infect others and should self-isolate. One of those tests already exists. It's the Abbott Binax Now COVID-19 AG card, and others are in the final stages of development. But regulators don't want to allow these tests out of your doctor's office and into your kitchen. All of this came home to me when I was on the 540 radio stations of Coast to Coast, the highest rated overnight talk radio show in North America, which I do roughly every Wednesday night, sometimes more. This was early in November. I had chills for 2 hours before I was supposed to go on the air at 1 in the morning. When I got off the air, I went to sleep and didn't wake up again until 7 o'clock the next night. Thanks to the privilege of telemedicine, I was able to consult a doctor on my laptop 2 days later, when I'd regained my ability to speak in coherent sentences. And the teledoc gave me a simple checklist of symptoms to watch out for. Symptoms for low blood oxygenation and high heart rate, which fortunately my two $35 smartwatches from China measure. But without a simple home test sitting on my kitchen counter, there was no way my teledoc could know if the virus he diagnosed was COVID, and no way to know if I could be spreading COVID to others. So when it comes to sane COVID management, we are almost there, but not quite. In sum, we have two crises that could do permanent damage to all that we believe in: the COVID catastrophe and the attempt to get Donald Trump to leave the White House peacefully. Let us hope that you, I, and the nation come out healthy and intact. This is Howard Bloom, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make, or want to know why? Ask how. And now for the sleazy, slimy, sleazy, sneaky